Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Ascension Teachings. I'm your host Peter Maxwell Slattery and thank you for joining me. Now, we left it at a cliffhanger with the last episode. I was talking about the geometric light realms, but what I want to go into now is some, scientific validation and proof of sort of what I'm talking about, and many others are talking about as well. Now, there are experiments out there, and what it is where they've got a speaker and they've got a pane of glass on top with sand on it. And when they play a tone through it, you can see perfect geometry form within the sand, and it changes as the pitch and tone changes of the frequency going through it. So, when I said in the last episode that light, sound, and consciousness and matter are all connected, they're all one thing, that's what I was talking about. Now I want to go into something a little bit more trippy. There's a well-known person out there in the UFO community called Michael Lee Hill. And I've known Michael for quite some time, and getting to know him and his experiences, I totally believe him. He's been on UFO Hunters, the History Channel show, and he's got some amazing footage, amazing evidence, and that's something that I'm going to show you right now, is something that he brought to light for me that really confirmed the geometric light realms. Michael told me I had the scientists at Simoscope image my guitar's A note tuned to 432 Hertz. This was the result, and look at what they got. That is the image from Michael Lee Hill from Simoscope. Now, if you look at the peripheral, just before the red area, you'll actually see zeros and ones, binary code. And look at all the geometry within that. Now, talking to other people about this, 432 is sort of like a natural frequency or hertz, and a lot of the time we're recording in 440, and so it's not getting the proper geometry for sound and frequency that we should be having. It's a little bit off. Now, this is what Richard C. Hoagland, who's very famous in the community, he's done a lot of work on Mars and the Moon and other things, especially with the structures and the physics and hyperdimensional state of physics behind a lot of these things. And what he said was Michael Lee Hill's 432 Hertz base numerical value, which turned out to be the same keys marking the Earth's 25,920 year precession cycle, and thus the same key numbers crucial to the cyclic activation of the hyperdimensional physics on Earth. Richard C. Hoagland. Now, here is a picture here. On the left is 432 A note, and when you look to the right side, that's the water sound vibration done in 440 Hertz with A note as well. And look at the difference. You've pretty much got perfect geometry happening there on the left, and there on the right, it's a bit just not as pretty, let's say that anyway. So it's not as sort of natural from what it could be. Now, here's a real NASA photograph of the 432 Hertz water. This is what they were able to take. I'm not sure if that's in infrared or how that was taken, but it's just amazing that NASA had been looking into this as well. And on top of this, Michael spoke to a scientist about this as well, and this is what the scientist actually had to say. It opens a portal through the fabric of space and time to bring through energy from another dimension. That was the conclusion from the scientists. They found the 432 Hertz disk will resurrect dead tap water into its original energetic blueprint. I asked her, where is this extra energy coming from? She answered, another dimension. Absolutely fascinating. So this, to me, explains the geometric light realms, other dimensions and interdimensional travel. They're tapping into something there with this 432 Hertz, and there's a sequence of numbers that you can go up by, and it brings through perfect geometry. And I recommend checking out Michael Lee Hill's work as well. Now, I'm going to show you a video here. This is from an experience that I had when I was doing a CE5 Skywatch when I went to bed at night time, and it was in the Alpine District in Victoria, Australia, at the bottom of Mount Buffalo, and I've been coming here all my life pretty much. Now, talking to the King of the Raven Tribe, Ulukai Brendan Murray, talking to Native American elders, something that I didn't talk about much in my earlier days when I came out a few years ago was that what can happen is that UFOs, interdimensional beings in their crafts, depending on their state of evolution And there's no hierarchy here, it just depends on the state that they're operating at. What they can do is they can actually land their craft or UFO, however people want to perceive it, they can actually land it on you. So they could land on this room that I'm in now, they could land on you in bed, which happens to me quite a lot, and sometimes you'll hear like a slight humming noise and feel it in your chest as well, a slight vibration. And why I'm saying this is because this is something that connects to the 432 hertz. There is a tone, a frequency that they're operating in, but we can't perceive them sometimes, though myself and others, and I've got photographs of this, we can sometimes perceive these beings and they look like an apparition, they look like a ghost. So the craft can do that as well, and because it's out of phase with this, out of sync, but it's sort of in higher third density, they're lowering themselves, they can appear as an apparition and they can land on you, and what they do is they vibrate your consciousness, your light body into the craft, because sometimes, in some cases, the human body can't withstand it just can't be in that craft in another density, depending on what frequency it is. So you just can't resonate with that. And so they pull out your consciousness, which can pretty much handle anything. And that's what you're doing, is experiencing that on the craft. You may appear in a different way as a light being. You may even end up projecting, or they might even project a type of body, or there might even be a body for you to pop into with your consciousness, almost like Avatar. So I'll just show you this now, and what's very interesting is that you can see orbs, a couple of orbs phase in, and they're pulsating at the same pulse of what you're going to hear, which is the sound of the craft, the UFO. So we see a lot of different things now. There's even acoustic levitation, and we're seeing this more and more. They're working on these types of things and they're levitating things. Coming down to it, sound, light and matter is all manifestations of consciousness, awareness. And even recently at Stanford University, they've come to the conclusion that sound gives birth to light. So think about that. Vibration, sound gives birth to light. And going back to Om, which within ancient texts it's believed that Om is the sound of source, the creation. That is where everything's come from, is that vibrational frequency, which has again manifested sound, because that's what it's manifested first, the Om, and light, and then physical matter. Now it's funny because I like to see quotes, and every now and then I find really good ones that I see about, and here's one here from Albert Einstein, and think about it. We're slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies tuned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music. Isn't that beautiful? And it's got so much truth to it. Also, Joe Dispenza, and this goes into how everything's holographic in nature. So what Joe Dispenza says is every part of a hologram contains the image of the whole object. From every viewing angle, you see the image in a different perspective as you would a real object. Each piece of a hologram contains a particular perspective of the image, but it includes the entire of the object. So it's like in the Bible, don't quote me here, but it's talking about everything's through the eye of the needle. So it's like what I was saying before with the electron, that's connected to everything. It's one electron, but everything's connected and they're symbiotic. So everything is fractal and symbiotic. And what is fractal? So we'll show you this clip right now, just so you've got a bit of an idea what fractal is. Now, when we go into geometry and that, recently at a Polish university, a bloke called Radek, and I can't pronounce the last name, but there it is. And I found this through David Wilcock's research, which just absolutely blew my mind. A bloke was actually able to take a photo of a photon. And when looking at it's absolutely amazing. So we'll just say quickly, what is a photon? The photon is a type of elementary particle. It is in the quantum of the electromagnetic field, including electromagnetic radiation such as light and radio waves, and the force carrier for the electromagnetic force. The invariant mass of the photon is zero. It always moves at the speed of light in a vacuum. Now, when the photon's captured on camera, if you look at it beyond dimensionally, you can get a Merkaba or see a Merkaba, aka aka light body, light vehicle. And it also resembles the Maltese cross or the Knights Templar cross, which is really weird. So when you look at that three-dimensionally, you can actually see a Merkaba. Now, I myself am filming this stuff all the time, and here's just a quick example of a being in its light body. This is an Andromedan being that I filmed a few years ago. So is the universe a hologram? Is it a holographic stimulation? Now, we even have people like Elon Musk talking about this. One thing I want to go into now is how we're seeing a lot of mimicking going on around the universe and in so many different ways. So our brain and the universe, look at how similar they are. Absolutely mind-blowing, isn't it? Here's another one. It's the Eye and the Crab Nebula. We're seeing a lot of this, and it's all got fractal and geometry to it. But wait, there's more. Here we got the birth of a cell, the death of a star. DNA, the double helix, and the double helix nebula. And recently it's been found and theorized that DNA could store the world's data if it was the size of one room. So this is very amazing stuff that's going on right now that we're finding out scientifically, and that our DNA stores a lot of information. And look at our epigenetics. It's been found that we get traits and certain things from our ancestors. And I'll go into more later on how we can clear some of those things, and what it does is actually clears the future pathway of the beings that we're going to be the ancestors of, because everything's happening at the same time and is holographic in nature from the master blueprint. So keep an eye out for that. Now, creating our own universe, I talked about before as cells dividing. Here's some imagery here representing that. So if you can imagine, that's the universe. And it divides and creates another universe. Or you come off from the Elohim blueprint. That's the blueprint there, and bang, you pop out of it, go into another frequency. This is the best way that I can represent what I'm trying to say as we divide like a cell off, whether from the blueprint or our soul splits up, or even create our own universe and we divide from this one and create our own universe. So truth is stranger than fiction, and that's why I'm so blessed with these experiences, and it's been a burden at the same time. I've been shot at, I get hate mail and ridiculed quite a lot, but the more that you step into your power, you can drop all that and you have love and compassion for those that are projecting that stuff as well. Because in the end, we're all one consciousness interacting with itself, and I feel sorry for those that don't understand that. But when you do understand that, you've got responsibility. So teleportation. From the Shiji material, it says, from here, you can activate your light body and connect with your multidimensional self, your Merkaba, and experience different light spectrums as being one at the same time, because you are connected with your higher self, you are unbounded. So she's talking about being at a certain level of consciousness and with love. Love is the key, and she mentions this so much throughout the series. Love actually gives you a key to access certain levels of consciousness, to access certain realms. And so once you obtain that full unbounded love from the heart and you're heart-centered, and practicing that, working with that and going through self-mastery, there's so much you can experience connected and anchored into the human body computer. And the way I perceive it is that we are unbounded consciousness, but right now what's happening is that you're experiencing through these two eyes and through this body computer a pinpoint of your awareness. It's such a tiny fraction of what you're experiencing here. And continuing on from the Shiji material, with this being said, there is an energetic grid set up connecting Orion, Sirius, and the Pleiades. The Orion Council of Light, the Elohim, and the Council of the Whole can be found in different vibrations just behind and above Aunitak, which is actually a star in Orion's belt. Although you cannot perceive us there, we also exist just outside of your frequency between Sirius A and B, and we exist in the Pleiades between Merope and Electra. Factions of the Elohim and members of the Council of the Whole exist in all these areas and in other places throughout the universe. So there's certain portals that you can sort of go to in your astral body, or even in your Merkaba light vehicle, or even certain types of crafts. And if you have a high level of consciousness and love in the heart, and you really are that and in service to others, you can access other places. But coming down to it later for the material, the biggest portal is your heart. And from the heart, you can access these other realms through your consciousness, which bypasses any of this other stuff. But we're taking baby steps here. Now, really funny stuff with teleportation we're seeing now is that Chinese scientists just set the world record for the furthest quantum teleportation. More specifically, the scientists beamed the quantum state of a photon into orbit. So they're doing that into space from Earth. They're teleporting a photon. Now, I want to go into the center of the galaxy. What I've been shown is that what happens in galactic center affects all the stars. And what the stars do is they affect the planetary bodies and what's in their system. And so what happens then is that the human residence, in this case on Earth, that gets affected, and that affects our emotions through the electromagnetic field and frequencies. We can feel a bit off. We may be a bit drowsy, we might need to sleep, we might be a bit emotional, a bit snappy, these types of things. And that's a byproduct not just from the human resonance, but also what the sun is doing, whether we're getting solar flares, electromagnetic storms, solar storms, things of that nature. So what I want to do now is just finish this episode with a little exercise. And what I want you to do is just close your eyes, sit back and relax. And what I want you to do is start breathing in through the nose and thinking of a beautiful coloured energy, light, whatever colour you want, or positive thoughts and happiness. And when you breathe out, I just want you to breathe out any fears, worries, frustrations, anything on the mind. And again, breathe in that loving, joyful, blissful energy. And then again, just breathe out anything not in line with your higher self, anything that's holding you back, any fears, worries, again, just let that go. And again, breathing that loving, joyful, blissful energy. And one more time, out again with anything that doesn't serve you, just let it out through that breath. And what I want you to do now is keep breathing in that beautiful, loving, joyful, blissful energy. And I want you to breathe that positive energy back out, so you start recycling that in and out through the breath. And I'm just going to do a clearing method that I use. So it's just clearing any negative influences or energies about and restoring us back to our natural balance energetically. So just keep breathing in that beautiful energy in and out through the breath. And so I'm just going to welcome our guides and our higher self. I ask that any cords, attachments, implants, parasitic thought forms, anything not in line with the awakening healing process of humanity in our fields and environment, we ask that it be escorted to its perfect place or to dissolve and go where it needs to. We also ask for the healing energies to step forth for any healing that's needed on a physical or non-physical level. And we also ask for a blessing from Gaia, the original spirits of the land, and the nature spirits and elementals that are in line with the awakening and healing process. And lastly, we ask that we're sealed off in our own dome of protection, immune from any outside influences, and we ask that our main teacher and guide step forth to communicate if there's anything that we need to know at this time through our thoughts, concepts and ideas. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode of Ascension Teachings. I hope you have found this interesting. There's a lot more to cover, and keep an eye out for next week's episode. Thank you.